Welcome to Library Out Loud with your host, Jane Baker. Jane has 7 years working at the Spokane County Library District as a communication and development director. Library Out Loud is about any and all things that are happening at the Library District. Library Out Loud is brought to you in part by STCU and SCLD. Now, here's your host, Jane Baker.
Hello and welcome to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker with the Spokane County Library District. Thanks for joining us today. We are going to be talking school librarians. Yes, does that sound boring? No, it is not boring. It is not going to be boring at all. Joining me today is our guest, Morgen Larsen. Morgen is from the Central Valley School District. Thank you for joining us today, Morgen.
Glad to be here.
And we have Gwendolyn Haley, Public Service Manager for the County Library District. Thank you again for joining us, Gwendolyn.
So glad to be here. Thank
Always
you.
love to have you on the program. We have a good time.
We do.
Yes, we do. And yeah, our topic sounds like, we're talking about school librarians, but we have some exciting things to talk about with school librarians.
Absolutely.
We can't get started on a program like this without mentioning that last year it was in the news that there was some funding issues for school districts, and as a result, some school librarians were either let go or reassigned or those type of things. Fortunately, you were not one of them.
No, Central Valley thankfully was able to retain their teacher librarians, but not all school districts were so lucky.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But today, what we're going to talk about is what school librarians do and why we are glad that you are still at Central Valley, and the important role that school librarians play in school libraries, and also how we interact together. Public libraries, school libraries. We're not the same.
No.
We have some same goals.
Yes.
But we're not the same.
Yeah.
So, wow, where to start with this? How would you like to start, Morgen? What's something you would like to start with?
I'd like to start by saying that the relationship between the public school and the public library is critical, and that we do work closely, but we do very different things. And so in the school library, we're dealing with the day-to-day needs of instruction and academic support for all students in our buildings. And so again. When we don't have a school librarian, there's a vacuum of services. And so, again, that's not something necessarily that the Spokane County Library District can fill with regard to a vacuum.
Yeah, because our spheres, kind of our way of working with students is very different, because for Morgen, her focus is on, like you said, the day-to-day, the curriculum support. If the teachers need a content expert, things like that, Morgen provides that for them because she has that educational background, really understands the teaching goals and strategies that the teachers are using and the students and where they're at. We focus on out-of-school time, which is after school, weekends. Summertime is our moment to shine in the library, right? But we're focusing on the students themselves as they come into the library with their individual needs, not as a class. And then we're focusing on parents too, and supporting parents to support their students' success, which means that, and we're also, of course, charged with serving the whole community. And so our focus is very broad, whereas a teacher librarian like Morgen is able to really specialize and focus in on the students' learning needs
and the particular curriculum. So what would an average day, if there is one, what would that be like for you?
Well, so I can tell you that it's always varied, and there's 9 million miscellaneous tasks that we achieve in any given day, which is part of the absolute fun of being a public school librarian. But number one is that we are there to serve students, and so that could come in the form of simply checking out a textbook, checking out library books to support learning, connecting students with books that help them learn about themselves, personal interest. The truth be told, kids are still reading. And now they're not necessarily reading with paper print books all the time, but we have to help them get to those other resources like digital books. Additionally, we are a place where students can come and relax. They can pick up a game of chess. They can create and work on projects for classes, because we do have a fully functioning makerspace in our library.
Wow.
We have, students doing video production, or, and it's, I say that our library is like a big giant swimming pool where students can just dip their toe in to try things out, and if it fits, then they can go ahead and take, full semester classes on those topics. But we're there to just serve up little bites, little appetizers of offerings.
You mentioned maker spaces.
Yes.
I'm familiar with what that is, but not everybody is.
Yes.
What is that?
So the whole idea of a maker space, it's based on constructivist educational philosophy, where students learn by doing and trying and ultimately failing oftentimes, just like any good engineer or scientist. We give them the space to do those things. And so it could be something as simple as them building a cardboard maze of some sort, or an arcade game, or programming micro boards, micro bits, and Adafruits. It can be them navigating robots using basic Java coding. It can be very low level to, the sky is the limit. But because we have sort of this free range approach, students come in. Sometimes it's a pair of scissors they need. Sometimes they need something much, much more, like a drone to fly over and get some footage of. So you just never know from day to day.
Wow. I think the school library has changed since I was in school.
Just like the public library. And there's big changes.
Right,
Yeah.
lots of changes. So that's fabulous. So then where does all the training for this come from? How do you know what the students need? How does this all work?
Well, so of course, like the public library, we're certified. So, we have, my personal background is, I have a bachelor's with a teaching certification, and then I have certification for school library within Washington State.
Okay.
As far as continued education, we seek a lot of assistance from Washington State Library and the Secretary of State's office, who supports not only public school librarians, but also public librarians.
Yes.
And then, local organizations and ISTE affiliates, such as NCCE, help to, fill those instructional needs. So, for example, coming up in March, we'll attend a digital citizenship conference that's supported by Common Sense Media.
Wow.
So, it's us working together to make sure that we are filling those needs.
Wow, that's fabulous. Fabulous information. So then, so many questions. But first of all, I guess I'm kind of stuck on the drone part. Because that blew my mind.
Okay.
Because I did not expect to hear that. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that parents and other citizens are surprised to hear that are happening in the library. And it became such a vibrant place. So students can get a drone at the libraries?
Yes, so we have a drone certification program. So students can come in and learn the basics, and then they're not super fancy drones.
Sure.
They're very basic, but they do have video capability, and so then they can use those to create videos for a myriad of purposes.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And it's becoming more and more popular, and we know that technology is a growth industry. So it makes sense for us to support those things as we look to our students for.
That's super exciting. I don't think a lot of people knew about that.
No.
That's a pretty exciting thing.
I think when we think about literacy, so often we're focused on, decoding words on a page.
Yes.
But literacy is really multifaceted, and 21st century literacy means that not only are students graduating from high school and adults also getting exposed to the print word, but also knowing how to navigate and evaluate the wealth of resources that are available on the internet, and being good digital citizens, if you
Yes.
will, but also being exposed to all kinds of technologies and learning how to use them and how they apply in their everyday life. Because, you know, I was talking to a mechanic when I was replacing a headlamp on my car, and he was telling me, like, new cars, some of them you can't even check the oil yourself. You're relying on the sensors. And so, you know, when we think about our ability to just go out and do things, we really do need to have access to a lot of digital technology and just get exposure and experience using it, or we're going to find out that things pass us by and we're going to be functionally illiterate in an increasingly digital society, and we don't want that for our students, and we don't want that for our citizens in Spokane County either.
No, no.
Yeah.
Wow. So then together then, how, I know that we pick up the public piece of it, and then we, you know, pick up from the schools, and then, so what other work are we doing together? Is there more beyond that that people should know about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'll just, and then you'll.
Sure. Yes.
Hopefully we can have
We'll collaborate
All
like
right.
we do.
So, for example, you know, when we talk about, you know, how do I learn how to do these things?
Yeah.
Of course, Spokane County Library has a rich and robust collection of digital databases and resources.
We do.
So that is something that, you know, financially, the library within my school can't necessarily support. So
Yes.
then we work together to not only support but also teach those skills. So if you know, a student needs to learn how to replace that headlight and they think they can do it, well, we've got a database, or you have
Yes.
a database for that.
This is true, yes.
Yeah.
So that's, our digital resources are an untold, almost an untold story. I mean, we
Right.
talk about it a lot, but
Yeah.
people don't realize how much we have digitally.
yes.
So then you're working with the students and showing them how to use this as,
Oh,
as
yes.
a resource, and
Yes.
and then it kind of augments what you have.
Yeah,
So
I think
now-
that's a good way to say it.
Does Central Valley have some of its own digital resources?
So we do. We work with the Washington State and our local ESD collective, and we have, you know, it's relatively limited
Sure.
because they are extraordinarily costly.
They are, yeah.
But it's those are not resources that are necessarily even available on print anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
the companies have gone completely digital, and it makes sense because they're constantly being revised. So.
And the nice thing is that, you know, Morgan's got resources at in her school that are available for her students to use while they're there, that are really critical to what the teachers are doing in the classroom. We're able to provide more things that maybe aren't tied as closely. They're of general use to everyone as well. And then Morgan is the way that students are connecting with the library. So she'll contact us and say, you know, you've got this database. Can you come? We'll show the students how to use it, or show Morgan how to use it, and she's showing her colleagues, because everything the library has is available to everyone 24/7 online, but
yes.
the students don't know about it, so Morgan's able to be that bridge between our two organizations, and she can say to us, hey, you know, we really are looking for these kinds of resources. What have you seen? And so we're sharing our knowledge, we're sharing our expertise, and we're communicating a lot just to make sure that we're removing barriers for students to use what the libraries have, whether it's her library or my library. So we're working with her to get cards in students' hands
Yes.
so that they can be using the library. We have online tutoring available every day after school for free from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. So that those peak homework hours where students can say, hey, I've got this calculus problem, and I don't know about y'all, but it's been a while
Right.
since I did calculus.
yeah.
It's been a minute. And my daughter is working on calculus right now, and I'm just like, here, take your library card, here's the computer, get going, because there's somebody on the other end, a teacher, a tutor who can help you in real time, and they're chatting back and forth and looking at the problems or revising papers and things like that. And that's something the public library can provide. And it's available, you know, every day for free. The
Sure.
students have to have a library card, so Morgan makes sure that students are aware of that resource and getting access to it.
Yes.
That's fabulous. That is absolutely fabulous. And I'm going to show my age here, as if it doesn't already show. But when I was in school, you know, the school library was where you went for detention. It does not even sound the same. So you're connecting some of these students who need that tutoring help. Here's how you get a library card. Here's where you go to do it. And there is no charge for any of it. So there's a big help that way. That's fabulous to hear. Now, I know that we do some programs well, the same sort of types of programs.
Yeah.
Earlier, when we first sat down, we were talking about Leap into Science.
Yes.
That is, well, it's kind of an initiative in a way.
Right.
STEM, and our new Engage magazine, I have to get that out here, and it does talk about a whole Leap into Science
During Leap
type
Week.
of program. Yeah, the Leap thing. So I do want to talk a little bit about the Leap into Science. So you're doing that at the school level.
Yes.
And we're also doing it at the public library.
Right. So
Okay.
we're part of a nationwide cohort working with the Franklin Institute for Science in Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Free Public Library. So we're training teachers and educators in this curriculum that they can then use with their students and families, and then our libraries are able to do the same thing.
Okay, great. We have the programs coming up, but they're not the same. They're different, is that correct?
Well, so currently we have, in Central Valley School District, we have the WIND module.
Right. Sure.
And so, the way that we have looked to deploy that is to bring in our local elementary schools, and then I have student tutors who then take the students through the modules and the lessons.
It's really fun.
So it's a great model for peer tutoring, as well as just general inclusivity.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds great. And then that's happening at the school,
Yes.
and it's about wind, and then we bring it to the library,
Right.
and students could come and do it again,
Yes.
or somebody listening and say, hey, I'd like to try that,
Right.
and then they can come to the library and give it a shot as well.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear the Leap into Science. Well, we have more to talk about because there's so much happening at the libraries, both the school library and the public library. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on Library Out Loud.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
I'm Jade Becker, and I'm a senior at Chewelah High School. I'm at STCU's Money Live event. In this scenario that we played today, I was a realtor. My spouse was a city worker. We had an 11-month-old child, and there was a lot of spending for that child, like diapers and formula, and had to buy toys and clothing. I'm very glad that I had this experience. It was super helpful. You need this to get far and ahead in life. I'm Jade Becker, and STCU is here for good.
Welcome back to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker with Spokane County Library District. Joining me today, school librarian Morgen Larsen from Central Valley. Is that your actual title, school librarian?
So I'm teacher librarian at Central Valley High School.
I like that. Thank you again for being here. And Gwendolyn Haley from the County Library District joining us again. And we're talking about school libraries and public libraries, how we work together, and those type of things. What ways are we partnering currently?
Yeah, well, one of the things I wanted to mention, because we were just talking about Leap into Science, and so in the spring, in May, I'm actually going to be offering a training that's available for teachers in the community and preschool teachers and school librarians around the next curriculum in Leap into Science, which is Light and Shadow. And so again, not only are we sharing training, where I might be the trainer, or Morgan's got a training going that I might send my teams to, we also can share resources, because since Morgan's been through the training, like, she might decide, I'd like to borrow the balance the curriculum from you now that I've done the wind, and so we can share resources back and forth that way too.
That's spectacular.
Which is really cool. And as she's talking about resources she has in her library, I'm filing that away and going, we might partner in the future on some things. We're like, well, we don't have drones. I wonder if during the summer, so we have those kinds of conversations. And when I've got a question about something in the schools, or if we see students coming in with an assignment, and I'm like, oh, what's going on with that? I might pick up the phone and call, or one of my staff will call Morgan and say, hey, tell us about the assignments that the kids are doing, because we're getting a lot of questions about X research topic. And then that's a cue to us that we might need to beef up our collection a little bit. And so we can partner that way by augmenting, again, materials that the school library maybe doesn't have and that we do, or I might say, oh, Morgan, the kids are really asking for this, and we don't have access to that, so let's put our heads together and figure out how we can get them what they need.
So there's a lot of collaboration back and forth.
There has to be, because it doesn't make sense. I mean, with a library model, it doesn't make sense for every site to have the same things.
Absolutely.
So if we can sort of crowdsource and share resources, then the funding and accessibility goes a lot farther.
So what resources that you don't, what resources do you not have at the school that you really rely on the library for?
Well, we've already talked about databases.
Sure.
One in particular that our students need quite often is the Gale Testing and Educational Reference Center.
Okay.
So that is a database of test banks for advanced placement assessments for SAT and ACT.
Okay.
And of course, high school students, especially those that are going on to a four-year school, need to have preparation for those things. And to go ahead and pay for those out of pocket can be very, very expensive. And so since it's something that is already available, we highly recommend that students utilize that resource through the, and again, using their Spokane County Library card.
Sure, sure.
Practice tests and study guides and all of that.
Yes.
Interesting.
The other thing, so students have access to the studio, which is located at the main branch, and that is a fully equipped recording, post-production, and all the equipment is there. And so, the school, our school day is done. We're open until, usually 3 o'clock in the day. And so there's a lot of hours where students could get work done and can get work done if they utilize the public library's facilities.
True. School's done at a certain time of the afternoon, and everybody is.
And we're open till 9.
And we're open until 9 p.m.
And on weekends. So.
I do want to stop a minute and say, yes, the studio in the Spokane Valley Library.
On Main Street.
On Main Street in the Valley. And it is a full studio, green screen, video equipment.
Yes.
And then there's also computers with the Adobe suite on there, so students can learn to edit. Those Adobe products are spectacular.
Yes.
So, and they're pretty sophisticated, as well as being industry standard. So you're teaching kids skills that they could get jobs with.
Absolutely.
And not only that, I think it's good to mention that we have actually recruited student interns, tech interns for the studio from Central Valley High School. We have an agreement with a couple school districts where we are hiring, and so not only providing opportunities for them to learn the skills, but then to actually get some job experience teaching others.
Yes.
And we have those opportunities kind of open and close throughout the year. We'll have a couple in the summer, and they're responsible for helping other teens and youth to learn how to use the equipment as well. So that's a great way for students to learn something, get experience teaching it, and then they also have a little bit of job experience and something to put on their resume when they are looking for a job, and looking for whatever they're doing after high school, whether they're going into a technical program or onto a university program or into the trades. This is a real solid experience that the library is able to partner with the school district to offer to students.
I know this will be our second year of doing the student interns, and what a great program. Again, if you get an Engage, in one of our libraries, there is a page here. It tells all about the programs at the studio and different ways. And if you're interested in internships and stuff, stop by the library and talk to the staff.
Yeah,
we'll be happy to
check
talk
out our
about
website,
that.
and it's under employment opportunities.
That
as
studio's been there for 3 years, and it's an exciting thing.
It is.
The more people that know about it, it's great that you're introducing the students to it.
Well, they're very adept at taking selfies and making short videos. I mean, with social media, that's very much part of their daily life. But to show them that they can take those basic skills and raise them up a notch, and that is something that the workforce is actually needing and looking for. It's very empowering.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What else do you need, Morgan? For what if you had an unlimited wish list?
Sure.
What would be at the top of that list that you would like to see that would help make your job easier, make you more effective? What is that wish?
Yeah, I mean, eventually I would love to see just a linked system where students automatically have open and full access to all Spokane County Library District resources, and that is certainly in the works.
It is.
It takes quite a bit of work to get districts and
Yeah.
all agencies on the same page.
Yes.
But that would be even more helpful. And just generalized support of the school library. We know that school libraries or schools that have librarians have more successful students, and we've got to have that academic support for all students.
Yeah.
How can we support you?
Well, to be honest, we have Central Valley School District has a levy vote here in February.
Yes. So remember to vote. We
Yes,
can
please
support you
vote.
by voting. Yes. February 11th, I believe, is the date on that. So, yes, important. How about volunteers? Do you ever need volunteers or anything like that?
We do. To be perfectly honest, people that are currently in industry, because anytime I can make that college and career connection for students, that's very helpful. We also have projects that it would be great to have somebody from the outside coming in. We have a huge and very successful art program at Central Valley, and so we had Daniel Perez in recently presenting to our students and is working along with them to create murals. So anytime we can bring local experts into our buildings, it really has a huge impact on our students.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Gwendolyn, what can we do to help with the school libraries?
Well, I think one of the great things is that when we are able as a public library to make connections with the school librarians and kind of develop that relationship so that we do have the kind of connections where we can pick up the phone and call each other, send a quick email and ask a question. One of the things that public libraries, and I think a lot of people don't realize that we do, is we're a great field trip site.
Yes.
And in fact, today and yesterday we had 100 students from a local school coming through in groups of like 40, and we've done that before. And it's a great experience because a lot of the kids haven't seen the library, they don't know where it is, and that it's for them. And so any chance that we have to get kids into our building so they can see our resources and feel comfortable and come back in and go, oh yeah, I see Gwendolyn, and I've seen her before, she's not scary. So I'm never scary. But but things like that, and so that's a great opportunity where we can make those kind of connections with schools. And I think for parents to bring their kids to the library, make sure that when they're doing their school supply shopping every year, the public library card is a quintessential school supply, I've always said, because you have access to all kinds of things. And like, I'm a parent, and Morgan's a parent too, and sometimes the kids will start reading a book in the classroom, but they can't take that one home, and they want to keep, and you want to, if a child has an interest or a student in a spark, being able to continue to support and foster that love of learning, whether it's reading a particular book or about a particular topic. It was fun because one of my daughter's teachers had handed her a book about Helen Keller in her classroom, and that sparked a whole interest in Helen Keller for my youngest, and so then she read everything she could get her hands on, and then was at the public library grabbing books about sign language, and she was it just really lit a fire in her and for her curiosity. And it was great that between the school and the public library we were able to foster that, and so she taught herself over the summer the alphabet, the hand alphabet and American Sign Language, which is really cool. And she was so inspired by this figure, Helen Keller, and this historical figure, and wanted to know about her life, and so it sparked her interest in history and learning another language and all of these things. And that's something that we can do together is kind of continue that learning, because when school's out, the library is open. Our Spokane Valley Library on Main is open 7 days a week. It's open till 9 Monday through Thursday. We're open on Sundays, so we're there. And then in the summertime, all of the books are not accessible because the schools are closed during the summer, and the public library, that's when we're filling in that gap. And we know that students who read over the summer, that's critical to their learning development, and then they start school ready to learn in the fall. So we're excited about that, and we work together because then Morgan's telling her students about summer reading, and her colleagues are making sure that kids know, go to the library in the summer, because if you just are reading even just 4 books over the summer, you're staving off that slide. So
you hear these stories mostly from adults who say, famous adults often, who will say, oh yeah, way back it was the school librarian who handed me a book that made a difference, who changed my life, who made me explore something more, such as sign language and things. So the little things you are doing now, who knows, in 10 years, 20 years, it could be a whole different world because of one little thing that you've done today. You do spectacular work.
Yes.
Morgen, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
all you do at the school districts, and however we can support you, we will, and we do thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you.
And thank you, Gwendolyn,
Thank
for
you.
being here, and we'll see you next time here on Library Out Loud.
Thanks for watching. Library Out Loud is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Library Out Loud is sponsored by our friends at the Spokane County Library District and STCU. Ask Jane a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or